Thank you very much, Vice President Commissioner. We will now move to the Q&A. First, just a reminder that today we have interpretation over and above the international sign language, also in Swedish and Greek, as well as Spanish, Italian, French, English, and German. And I would ask you to please specify to whom you address your question. We will start with Oliver Grimm. Oliver.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
I came with the Austrian newspaper Die Presse. I've read your report, I've read the staff document, and I looked at your 2016, the first action plan. There is not a single legally obligatory measure in there. You don't, for example, say that, well, member states have to devote this and that much money out of these and those funds they get from Brussels for the purpose of integration. You don't even suggest that member states that don't do anything against systematic discrimination of migrants in the housing market might face legal proceedings or something. What's the added value of this document beyond actually repeating what you more or less already wanted to do 4 years ago and which suffered from the same problems, that there are very few legally obligatory aspects in this program? Thank you.
I'll have a go and then the Commissioner may complete. There is no way that this can work by Brussels dictating an obligation to include and integrate. Precisely, this would be the wrong recipe. What we are doing here is we are very precise, very complete, I would say very forensic, in identifying concrete action plans that need to be implemented in the years to come. Most of them on specific areas, so this is not a Christmas tree. We do not propose to integrate everybody on everything. We identify clearly work streams, chantier, where the integration and the inclusion imperative is more pronounced. And we have novelties that were not there in 2016. I told you that we have much more money and many more instruments. For example, the European Social Fund Plus now can finance inclusion actions, which was not the case in the current framework. We cover not only third country nationals that are legally here, but also EU citizens with migrant backgrounds. And as far as the difference between 2016 and now is that now we are in 2020. So we know how important it is and where we need to focus. And to give an example, why we're taking this approach is, let's take funding, for example. Most of the important funding sources available to us in the next 7 years, I repeat, very ambitious compared to what we're having now, are resources that the Commission cannot decide on itself. We're not responsible for spending this money. This is money that will have to be committed, spent by our member states as managing authorities, and on many occasions by regional authorities, regional governments. And we hope that we help them with our approach to focus precisely on these targeted and well-defined areas. So, Oliver, my reply is that it's not by imposing a Brussels-lite diktat that inclusion will happen. This is how we are more helpful, as catalyst for change.
Not so much. As I said in my introduction, we propose, we coordinate, and we fund. And we have based our action plan on a massive consulting with those most concerned. And of course, part of that is also how we can help member states, for example, by exchanging experience on how to tackle discrimination in a specific area in different member states or other kind of shortcomings.
Thank you. We now move to Lionel Jullien. Lionel, tu as la parole.
Oui, vous m'entendez?
Yes, can you hear me?
Là, pardon. Oui, c'est une...
Yes, thank you. This question is being asked in French, and you're welcome to answer it in whichever language you would like. It's a question for Vice President Schinas and the Commissioner Johansson. The question about immigration and integration today is about the fact that migrants are sometimes left to the side, that they are not included, that they are marginalized sometimes. And you have just mentioned, Vice President, that you are very much in favor of the European way of life. I was asking about the promotion of the European way of life, and there was a demonstration at the Place de la République yesterday in Paris. What do you think of that? Thank you.
Tout d'abord, je n'ai pas dit que...
Well, first of all, I never said that I take forward the European or embody the European way of life. I'm just here to talk to you today about inclusion and integration, and the subject is intrinsically linked to the European way of life and what Europe represents today. For all the Europeans that are covered and concerned by the action plan presented today, what we want is to show them that we have many possibilities, many instruments, many sources available to us that can be provided at all times. And for the second part of your question, I can tell you that I was up on this podium for 5 years every day, and I was never in the habit of commenting the operations of law enforcement and judges in Europe. That is not our role here, and it's not something I'm prepared to do today.
Thank you. Commissioner, you want to add a word? No. We move on to Griselda Pastor. Griselda, tu as la parole.
Griselda, you have the floor. Thank you very much. Griselda Pastor from SER, Spanish Radio. I too would like to ask my question in French. I have a bit of an understanding problem here. You have spoken about a European citizen with a migrant background. I wanted to know whether, when you come up with statistics, these citizens count as migrants or natives. And I'm asking this because, as you know, when there have been attacks carried out, very often politicians say that they've been carried out by migrants, and they ignore the fact that lots of these so-called migrants were actually born on EU territory. So I'm wondering whether that might not, unfortunately, increase differences between Europeans, this way of understanding the issue. And in the Canaries, and this isn't a strong action taken by the police, but in the Canaries, more than 2,000 people are very poorly treated on a wharf there, and I wonder what you would have to say about the situation there in Spain. Thank you.
Normally they do it themselves.
Thank you very much. I start with the statistics. 34 million EU residents are born outside the European Union. If you include those that also have parents born outside but still themselves born in the European Union, that will be pretty more. But 34 million are born outside the European Union. Some of them have become European citizens, some not. Every year we have about 2 to 3 million people coming to the European Union, more than 1 million to come here to work, but most of them come here because of love reasons, because they fall in love with an EU citizens or for other family reasons. Every year about 1 million people leave the European Union, 1.5. So that means we are growing every year with 1.5, 2 million people every year, and we need that. We are an aging society. Last year, 700,000 migrants became EU citizens. So this is an ongoing process. But 34 million are those born outside European Union. On the Canary Islands, I had the opportunity to visit the Canary Islands 1 week ago, together with the Spanish minister, and it's a very difficult situation right now. We have seen a huge increase of migrants coming through the Atlantic route. This is the most deadly route ever to the European Union. We don't know how many lives have been lost out on these very, very dangerous routes. It looks like a huge majority of those arriving are not refugees. They are economic migrants that will not be granted protection, international protection in the European Union. So, of course, the most important now is exactly what we pointed out in the Pact on Migration and Asylum. Is we need to fight the human smugglers. We need to prevent people from going out on these very, very dangerous routes. But also we need to send those back that are not eligible for international protection. So this is why I'm going to Morocco next week to also discuss this with the Moroccan government. The situation on the Canary Islands is very challenging, and I know that the Spanish government has done a lot recently to set up proper facilitation for the migrants to be in. There'd be, of course, not sustainable to have people in the port that have been going on for a while. But now I think they are opening up new spaces, and they are also reached out to the Commission asking for additional funding, and we are looking into that right now.
Griselda, we are here for the inclusion and integration, but you are tempting me to share a thought on migration as well. All the problems Europe faces currently on migration, from Lesbos to Canary Islands to Calais, have one single explanation, that we do not have an EU framework for migration policy. We have a patchwork of regulatory solutions that provide unequal outcomes and very many problems, bottlenecks, black holes, dramas that we are running after to. The Commissioner and I, on the 23rd of September, presented a comprehensive, cohesive, realistic, pragmatic basis for an EU migration policy. If governments do not want to see more Canary Island problems, more problems in Lesbos, in the Greek islands, in Central Med, the reply is very simple. Get the pact adopted. Give Europe a framework for migration policy. And then we'll see if, with this on the statute book, Europe can cope better or worse from the current situation.
Thank you. We move to Jacopo. Jacopo, sorry. Jacopo, your mic source. Yes, go ahead.
The pact, meaning I understand that
Sorry, Jacopo.
there is no...
Sorry, Jacopo. Could you start over, please?
Could you start over, please?
Can you hear me?
Very badly.
Very badly.
Oh, okay, I text you the question then if you can't hear me.
No, go ahead, but start over.
Go ahead, but start over.
Okay. I was wondering, on the last words Vice President Schinas said, whether he thinks that this proposal will actually make the adoption of the Migration Pact any easier. I understand there is no legal connection between the two, but I want to understand whether there is a political one. And the second question on a comment of Commissioner Johansson in saying that integration is not rocket science. Is here the message that before blaming any particular religion, member states should do their homework on integration? Thanks.
Okay, the answer to your question, Jacobo, is yes. I believe that what we're presenting today, it's something that will contribute to facilitate the adoption of the pact. In what sense? Many times, both the Commissioner and I have said that we need, on European migration policies, less drama and more effective management, and more communality, more responsibility and more solidarity. All these elements are in the pact. But very often, those who want to torpedo, to undermine an agreement, a European agreement on migration policy, use issues like inclusion, integration, security, terrorism, radicalization to undo the main narrative. So we feel that the time has come now to demythicize, if such a word exists, which I'm inventing now, or de-dramatize migration policy, go back to the basics and see what matters. What matters in terms of responsibility and solidarity, we already put in the pact on the 23rd of September. What matters on integration and inclusion, it's on the table as of today. We will have more initiatives on legal migration and pathways later this year. So all this will create the new cohesive architecture for migration policy that we are seeking to have in place during this mandate.
Commissioner?
Yes, of course, this action plan is here to support member states' efforts to be more successful on integration and inclusion. And one of the things that we are proposing is that we, together with member states, should develop a scoreboard so that we also can benchmark what is working and what is not working. What I meant by saying it's not rocket science, it's about getting a job, learning a language, have a place to live, and treat your medical or have a good health, and send your kids at school, and the children should be able to actually finalize their education in school. So this is things that we are struggling in all member states all the time. So it's nothing very special when it comes to migrants, but some extra efforts are needed here. Religion is not a problem. The freedom of religion is part of our common values, the European way of life, or the possibility to not belong to any religion at all. And that's one of the freedoms that we are actually defending.
Thank you, Commissioner. Nous passons à Anne-Laure.
Okay, Anne-Laure next.
Anne-Laure, il faut aussi que tu...
Anne-Laure? Ah, yeah, you've done it now. Okay, great. Oh, no, sorry. Microphone, wrong source, apparently. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
Alors, pendant que tu...
Okay. Let's see if you can manage to sort it out.
We're going to move to Peter Fritz. Anne-Laure, on essaiera de revenir vers toi.
Anne-Laure, we'll try to come back to you in a minute.
Oh dear, we have some technical issues today. Peter, same issue. You have... No, it seems to be working. Go ahead.
Okay, it seems to be working now. It's on a different topic, though, so I might as well wait till the integration menu is exhausted.
Okay, we'll have to see if we have time. We move to Tanya Milewska. Tanya.
Yes, hi, it's Tanya Milewska from the Macedonian News Agency. It's also not directly linked. I would like to know if there's any progress in the negotiations between on the FRONTEX agreement with North Macedonia that Bulgaria is blocking, and I would like to know if this jeopardizes further the security of the European Union. Thank you.
No, Tanya, I'm really sorry. This is not an issue which was discussed in college and therefore not an issue at all for today's college readout. We would like you to stay focused, please, on the issue of the press conference. Catherine, we go to you.
Hi. Hello. I'd just like to ask, given that we're going to see a lot of Europeans are going to lose their jobs or have lost their jobs because of this pandemic, a lot of people struggle with access to decent housing. And what I know from following the Brexit referendum is that hostility towards migrants, even EU migrants, can be instrumentalized by politicians. So what would you say to those who see migrants of any sort as a threat?
We would say to them, at least I would say to them, that there is nothing of a threat to a refugee from Syria who is a qualified medical doctor and works as a taxi driver, or qualified nurses that we badly need in our health systems, or teachers or educators that are overqualified for the jobs they are doing. But we see nothing threatening about migrant women that face multiple discrimination, very often not only as society but also in the household, in getting a decent job. And we do not pretend to make a better society. This is not what we do, but we do pretend to mobilize everything that the EU has at our disposal in terms of funding, money, analysis, targeting, to make the life of these people easier and to give them more chances to integrate and contribute to our collective prosperity.
Thank you. I think, Katrin, that you raised a very important issue here. Words matter, of course, and that's why both Margaritis and I started by talking about migrants as part of us, not them. And we see that now during the pandemic, where we have migrants that are working in the healthcare sector, in other essential works, and they have a bigger proportion of migrants in essential workers during the pandemic than in the labour market as a whole. So they are actually contributing very concrete right now. But of course, you're also right that we have now an economic crisis that might probably will raise the unemployment even more. And that's why probably many of migrants will be hit harder than others, because they are very often in short-term contracts or more vulnerable situation on the labour market. Before the pandemic, we had an increase in the employment rate, quite good one when it comes to migrants on the labour market. But now we are challenging situations. So, of course, it's important that we tackle this in a positive way and that we use all the money and opportunities that we now hope that we can soon be able to actually finalise and make available for member states to use. But I think it's really important that we talk about migration in a realistic way. We have a lot of migrants here, and we need them. And we're probably going to need many more migrants the years to come. We are an aging society. We are lacking people in the working ages.
Thank you. We will try Anne-Laure one last time. Anne-Laure, tu as de nouveau la parole.
Anne-Laure, try again. Que vous m'entendez cette fois? Can you hear me? Yep, we can hear you now. I'd like to ask my question in French. In the action plan on racism, you talk about how important it is to have statistics on ethnicity. What do you mean by that? And does that go above and beyond collecting data on where a person was born and where their parents were born? And how many member states actually allow the collection of such data? There are very strict rules governing this in France, for example. Thank you.
It's about another action plan.
Excuse-moi, mais ça n'est pas quelque chose.
Sorry, but this isn't something which is in today's proposal, so it's not a question which the commissioners will be able to answer today during this press conference, Anne-Laure. We'll come back to you on this, though.
had a question, but again, it will depend on the issue. Please go ahead.
Hang on just a second. Yeah, the question is to Vice President Schinas. Was the suggestion or the demand of Italian Prime Minister Conte to keep all European skiing resorts closed for at least up to the 10th of January, was that discussed today in the Commission meeting, and does the Commission hold a view on this?
Peter, I can answer that myself directly. This was not an issue which was on the college agenda, nor was it discussed.
Although I think that ski is also part of the European way of life, but this time it was not discussed, no.
Thank you. Thank you. This brings us to the end of our press conference today. We will have a whole series of press conferences again tomorrow. There will be no midday briefing, but 3 press conferences for you tomorrow on the other points discussed today by college. Thank you very much.